I am currently in this space of experiencing a stream of thought. I am a very philosophical person, and so I often will find myself just really thinking deeply about specific subjects, experiences, emotions, way people act, and the way people act, and just, life, everything about life, all the intricacies, all those things that I observe, things that I see that not everyone sees. The noticings of even the most minuscule detail. And that's just who I am. That's the kind of person I am. I'm philosophical. I'm emotional. I feel deeply. I think deeply. And I like to talk about it. It enlivens the mind, the spirit. It deepens that connection to not only yourself, but even to the person in which you are sharing that energy with, a conversation. And because I tend to always speak on what I feel, it's just who I am. I speak on how I feel, my emotional way of being is by expressing it. Because if I hold it in, it can hurt, and it's just something I can't hold on to. I have to allow it to flow. I have to allow it to move. I can't not speak on it, especially if it's something that seems profound, or I feel passionate about, or even an experience that I may have went through in a personal aspect. So it's just in my nature to speak on it. And of course, having gone through life, I began to eventually notice that not everybody likes that, right? Which is okay, not everyone's going to like you, but I seem to have a higher propensity for freaking people out with the intensity of my expressions, I suppose. Like how deep they can go, or how passionate I can be about it. And to me, I'm not expressing it in these angry or aggressive ways. I'm just speaking on how I feel, And it's just intriguing to me because I won't always be aware that maybe how I'm coming off can be intense. And of course, in noticing that, I'm just like, I've taken so much time in really observing, am I being too intense? Am I being too much? Am I appearing too aggressive? Then I go into that philosophical thinking of, could it be something about me that is too much for people in a sense? Though, of course, now I know no one is ever too much for anybody. You will always find the right people for you. So that whole too muchness is old programming I had to work through, of course. But it just intrigues me because there really are people out there who I have freaked out. People have misunderstood me. People who have been angry with me on things that I was just speaking from my heart, or in the moment, or the emotions I was having. And it's not always about them per se. Like, for instance, if I get a connection from like a past loved one, for instance, from that person, I'll begin really feeling the energy. And so as I'm feeling this energy, I have to express it. And so I begin to speak on it. And oftentimes the people will feel that, and they will feel they need to hear that, and they need to know that, and are often grateful in the moment. But then later, I guess they realize maybe it was too much for them to handle at the time, because a lot of truth can come out in these experiences when connecting with those from the other side. And of course, me being the messenger, I guess, it kind of gets taken out on me. The messenger shooting the messenger in a sense. Or maybe just a discomfort with the fact that maybe these people have just a discomfort with the fact that I'm always going to speak what's on my mind, and not everyone likes that. And that's just strange to me, because it really does seem like, don't we want to, in a sense, live in more truthful and authentic ways, more heart-based ways, more ways where we can really express ourselves without feeling like we have to mask it or hold it back? And while, yes, some of these truths and authenticities may bring up something within others that could create a sort of pain they must face, or painful truth that they may have kept from looking at from within themselves. But in the end, it is something that definitely can be coming up, usually for a reason. A way to look at, why is this painful? Why was I triggered? What is it that makes me feel this way? Why was it so intense? And of course, I will add that, of course, again, we're not going to get along with everybody. Not everyone will resonate with your energies. But I have experienced, the reason I speak on this is because I have, and even in this moment, continue to experience moments where I feel and create these deep connections with people, and really resonate and just have this soul knowing, right? And as I become comfortable and relax into this new friendship or this new soul connection, I really began to open up, and it can sometimes freak people out. Me being my 100% authentic self can really freak people out. And while, yes, it can be painful to have those experiences, I've had it happen to me so often that I am beginning to find ways in which to overcome that shock or pain from it a little more quickly, regain my balance more quickly, not allow it to take me out for so long. And I've also noticed and read, there's oftentimes those who have a calling or approach life differently or are misunderstood are often done so for a reason, because it forces us to step into more of a leader role, especially when we do want to help change the world and help people and help, and even if not changing the world, just that healer, the call to be a healer, the call to be a medicine woman, a shaman, the call to be someone who can really help people, the mystic. The one who walks between worlds. But it is often these people who are misunderstood, doing things differently, judged heavily for stepping outside the box. Just doing it differently. Not only are we the ones that are tasked with breaking the generational traumas and ancestral, traumas as well, but when you look back in history, you see that the majority of women who did do things differently and outside of the norm and really followed their passions despite the hardships, the judgment, the people not understanding them, they often ended up being the ones who really made a difference in one aspect or another, giving us more understanding of our world, our reality, how we exist within it, and that there is very real truths to be had. I guess it being the rise of the divine feminine in a sense, but having to work through that heavy suppression of that energy as we move forward, as we soldier on ahead, rising against all odds, doing what feels right, what we feel called to, what is passionate in our hearts. It is literally a rising of the divine feminine against the suppression that has kept that energy from rising for so long. And so, of course, those who follow that calling will be faced with more challenges, because the way everything has been set up has made it to where it's difficult to live in that expression, to be in that receptivity, that nurturing, that rest, the intuition, the just feminine way of being the divine feminine. Not always in the doing, not always in the creating, not always in the go, go, go. We are literally not only the breakers of generational traumas, ancestral traumas, but also the very embodiment of the rise of the divine feminine, and how living in that truth of loving all that is as it is being accepting and receptive. That we are literally bringing it forth into this new age, especially as we watch many of the oppressive patriarchal systems begin to crumble and fracture and be exposed. It's taken a long time and many decades. It's not longer since the 1800s, women forging forward despite being told that what they were doing were wrong. That was the very embodiment of that divine feminine energy being like, I'm going to do it anyways. Because this is what I'm meant to do. This is what will help to bring the love and the nurturing and the acceptance and the equality and the peace that we need in this world and for the future generations. And so we have to continue forward with what truly calls to our heart, what makes us our most authentic self, our most authentic expression, and not feeling shame for being who we are, even when others do not understand it or are triggered by it. Because ultimately, those triggers are just mirrors of their own that they have yet to face within themselves, or are too afraid to, or can't believe that they can. And of course, those of us who have been tasked as the breakers of ancestral and generational trauma. It is not only women, of course, for there are many men who are also stepping into this role as well, because there is also a rise of the divine masculine occurring at this time. It feels as if the divine feminine is helping to lead the way to showing men that it's okay to embrace their divine feminine selves, which helps them to better step into and really embody the divine masculine within. A work in tandem. Something moving and brewing and shifting, and that we're moving towards, that will bring the ultimate balance that our civilization needs as we continue to evolve into a more advanced species.